Earlier this year, I was driving down a lonely stretch of highway after work. The commute to and from my job was a little over an hour, but I couldn't complain too much as the pay was great. As I was driving down this long stretch of road, surrounded by fields, I saw a girl. She had to be in her early 20s at least. She was standing on the side of the road, thumb out, looking desperate. I hesitated. I've always been told not to pick up hitchhikers, but something about her seemed different. She looked harmless, just a young woman in a jean jacket, shivering in the cold night air. Against my better judgment, I slowed down and rolled down my window. "You need a ride?" I asked. Her face lit up with relief. "Yes, please. My boyfriend left me out here. I've been walking for hours." She sounded genuine, and I couldn't leave her out here in the middle of nowhere. I unlocked the car, and she climbed in, thanking me repeatedly. Her name was Emily. She told me how her boyfriend had gotten angry during an argument and just kicked her out of the car. She said she needed to get to the nearest gas station, where a friend of hers would pick her up from there. I agreed, figuring it wasn't too much out of my way. As we drove, I noticed she was constantly checking her phone. I found this weird, because if she had a phone, why couldn't she just call her friend to come pick her up on the road instead of a gas station? But I was already driving, and I decided to make some small talk. Her answers were short and distracted. I chalked it up to her being shaken up from what happened with her boyfriend. After about 20 minutes, she pointed to a gas station up ahead. "That's the one," she said. It was an old rundown place, the kind that looked like it hadn't seen many customers in years. There was only one other car parked there, an old beat-up sedan. "Are you sure this is the right place?" I asked. "Yeah, my friend said he'd meet me here. You can drop me off. I don't want to keep you." Something felt off, but I didn't want to push it. I pulled into the parking lot and parked a little distance from the other car. Emily thanked me again and got out. I watched as she walked towards the gas station doors, but then suddenly veered off towards the parked sedan instead. That's when the doors of the sedan flew open and two men jumped out, guns in hand. My heart pounded as I realized what was happening. Emily wasn't in trouble. She was setting me up. One of the men approached my car, his gun aimed right at me. "Out of the car now," he yelled at me. I raised my hands, trying to stay calm, and slowly opened the door. "Take whatever you want, just don't shoot me." The other man grabbed my keys and threw them to Emily, who caught them with a smirk on her face. It was clear they had done this before. "Empty out your pockets," the first man with the gun said. I did as he said, handing over my wallet and phone. He glanced inside the car, looking for anything else of value. When they couldn't find anything else, the first man said if I call the police, he'll come to my house and kill me. He held up my license, indicating he knew where my address was. Emily and the first man ran back to the sedan and sped off. The second guy got into my car and started the engine. Before he pulled out, he said, "Tough luck, bitch. Next time don't be an idiot." He sped off down the road. I was left at the gas station stunned. Despite their threats of killing me if I called the police, that's what I did. I went into the gas station and they let me use their phone. It's been months since this all happened and no one has been caught. That shitty little gas station didn't have any cameras outside, so it's nearly impossible for justice. Use my story as a warning. Please, even if it's Mother Teresa on the side of the road, don't pick up hitchhikers. 2 years ago, I ran away from my house. I was a young, dumb teenager then, and super rebellious. My mom and I were fighting over something stupid, and I just completely upped and left the house. I seriously walked away for hours. I had walked so far that I did not recognize where I was anymore. And like the idiot that I was, I left my cell phone at the house, so I couldn't even use the GPS to get back home. And mind you, it was mid-afternoon in July. I remember the sun being so hot that it must have been over 100 degrees outside. My clothes were sticking to my skin, and my feet ached from walking. I had not eaten in hours, and I was starting to feel really dizzy from the heat. I was walking on this stretch of road when I heard the rumble of an engine from behind me. In my desperation, I stuck out my thumb without a second thought. It was this old beat-up truck, the kind you'd see in a junkyard. The man behind the wheel looked just as bad. He had graying hair, a scruffy beard, and his eyes were hidden behind dark sunglasses. He pulled up next to me and said, "Where you headed?" I remember his voice was rough like sandpaper. I told him just up the road, maybe 10 miles south. He told me to hop in and nodded to the passenger seat. I hesitated for a moment, but the sun was burning my skin, and the idea of sitting in the cool AC was just too tempting. I climbed into the truck, and he drove off without another word. The cab smelled faintly of oil and sweat, but it was better than the scorching sun outside. At first, the ride was uneventful. We made small talk, where I was from, why I was out here all alone. He didn't say much about himself, which I thought was a little odd, but I didn't push it. I was just grateful for the ride. I glanced out the window, watching the scenery change from fields to trees, feeling a bit more relaxed. Then, about 20 minutes in, I noticed we passed the exit that I needed. I shifted in my seat and said, "Hey, that was my exit back there." He did not respond right away and just kept driving. When he finally spoke, his voice was different. It was colder. "You're not going there." A chill ran down my spine. "What do you mean?" He didn't look at me and said, "Your property now," he said flatly. "My property." Panic flooded through me. I looked at the door handle, my hand already moving toward it, but I tried to keep my voice calm. "What are you talking about? I think you're mistaken." He just shook his head, his grip tightening on the steering wheel, and said, "I don't make mistakes." My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might burst out of my chest. I did not wait to see what he would do next. I grabbed the door handle and yanked it open, the wind rushing in. Without thinking, I jumped. The impact was brutal. I hit the gravel shoulder hard, rolling several times before I came to a complete stop. My whole body screamed in pain, but I forced myself to get up. I glanced back at the road. The man had stopped the truck, and I saw him starting to get out. Adrenaline kicked in, and I took off running. There was a small house up ahead with a light on in the window. I sprinted toward it, ignoring the burning pain in my legs, praying that someone was home. I reached the front door and pounded on it frantically and cried for help. A middle-aged woman opened the door. She pulled me inside before I could even explain. "What happened?" she asked, locking the door behind me. I told her everything as she handed me the phone to call the police. My hands were shaking so badly it was hard to dial. The dispatcher assured me that they'd send someone out right away. As I waited, I kept glancing out the window, expecting to see the truck, but it never showed up. The woman stayed with me, offering comforting words, though none of it really sank in. I was too focused on that man returning. The police arrived quickly, but when they searched the area, they found nothing. No truck, no man. A few days later, I was back home and safe, and grounded for the rest of the year. Shortly after I was getting over the whole ordeal, I found something. In our mailbox, I found a small, torn piece of paper. It was a note, written in shaky handwriting. It said, "You escaped, but I always find what's mine." We contacted the police again, but still, they never found him. There's not a day that goes by where I don't think that man is out there watching me, waiting to strike. It was a Friday night, and I was driving home late from work. I was driving on the part of the highway that was almost always deserted. This was usually the part of my drive where my brain just wandered mindlessly. But in my mindlessness, that's when I saw him. There was a guy, maybe in his early 30s, standing by the side of the road with his thumb sticking out. He had on a tattered jacket and a backpack slung over one shoulder. Now, before you judge me, I've been in this guy's shoes before. Years ago, when I was broke and desperate, I hitchhiked my way across 3 states trying to get back home. I remember the exhaustion, the hunger, and the relief when someone finally stopped for me. So when I saw this guy, it felt like the right thing to do, and I pulled over. "Thanks, man," the guy said as he climbed into my passenger seat. He did not say much after that, just that he needed to get to the Walmart up ahead. I figured that was harmless enough. We made some small talk, and he explained that he was just down on his luck with no money and no car. He was a pleasant guy, and before I knew it, I was pulling up to the Walmart. He got out, thanked me again, and walked off into the store. The rest of my evening was normal. I got home, had dinner, and went to bed early. But around 2 a.m., I woke up to this weird noise coming from downstairs. And at first, I thought it might be the wind or maybe an animal outside. But as I lay there listening, I realized it was something else. It was faint, but it sounded like someone was moving around in my living room. I got out of bed, nervous, and grabbed the baseball bat that I kept in my closet. I slowly made my way downstairs, trying not to make any noise. The closer I got, the clearer it became that someone was definitely in my house. I could hear the sound of drawers being opened and shut, the rustling of papers, and the creak of floorboards. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I saw him. It was the hitchhiker. He was standing by my entertainment center, shoving my stuff into a backpack, my laptop, some cash, and even my watch. The guy did not see me at first, so I took a second to gather myself. But when I stepped forward, the floor creaked, and he turned around. Our eyes locked for a split second. He looked just as shocked as I was. "Get out of my house," I yelled at him, raising the bat. But before I could do anything, he bolted for the door. I chased him, but he was out of the door and down the street before I could catch up. I called the cops immediately. They showed up pretty fast and took my statement. They asked a lot of questions, but I did not have many answers. The guy didn't tell me much about himself when I picked him up, and in the dark, I hadn't got a good look at his face. The cops did their best, but after a few days, they told me there wasn't much that they could do. They said they keep an eye out, but I haven't heard anything since. The guy just disappeared, and so did my stuff. What still boggles my mind is, how did he know where I lived? I gave him no personal information, and the Walmart I dropped him off was at least a half hour away, and he had no car. Now, every time I hear a noise in the middle of the night, I freeze. I keep thinking he might come back. I don't know. All I know is, I'll never pick up another hitchhiker again. I can't risk going through this a second time. So much for being a nice guy.